Okay, I think we are live. I'm Judy Vee, founder of the Codex system, and this is Collapse Broadcast episode 12, The Models That Start Too Late. It follows a big week where we've had two public lives this week already over on Facebook. The thought is not the origin, and your nervous system is not the origin. Both point to the same structural error. The market has mistaken first visibility for origin. And most models do not fail because they're shallow or don't work, but they fail because they begin after the route has already run. And that is the mistake. That is the mistake. That is the market has mistaken first visibility for origin. So a thought appears, and the model begins with the thought, addresses the thought, looks, examines, and interrogates and dissects the thought. A nervous system state becomes visible, and the model begins with regulation. An emotion arises or comes up or is experienced, and the model begins with the feeling, analyzing the feeling, dissecting the feeling. A behavior happens, and the model begins with the habit, the discipline, the change, the repair, or the apology, or the forgiveness, or whatever it is. A desire is named, and the model begins with manifestation. A pattern repeats, and the model begins with meaning, story, trauma, identity, or interpretation. And by then, something has already happened. By then, the root has already selected an output. It's already done. It's already after the fact. By then, authority has already been given. And that is why so many intelligent people can understand the pattern and still repeat it. They're not necessarily missing awareness. People are more aware now than ever before, but they may be working inside a model that starts too late. So if you're here live, welcome. If you've got any questions, let me know. If you're watching the replay, feel free to leave comments and questions, because this is a category break. No one out there is talking about this. This is their category break. Because the thing is, if it worked, then why is the industry a multi-billion-dollar industry that is growing exponentially? The thought is not the origin. That was always the first doorway, not the origin. The thought might be clear. It may be convincing. It may even feel like truth. You'll swear it's truth because it feels so convincing. It may sound oh so spiritual, intelligent, strategic, healed, positive, negative even. It might even sound limiting. It doesn't matter. This is not about good, bad. It might be expansive, it might be afraid or powerful. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But the thought is evidence nonetheless. That's all it is. The be all end all, the thought is the evidence. It might be the narration that arrives after the root has already taken authority. So when a model begins with the thought, it is already meeting something that has already appeared. So all you're doing is changing costumes. The model can question the thought. It can replace the thought, reframe the thought, affirm over the thought. It can observe the thought. It can make the thoughts less charged. Very successfully. But if the thought was produced by a root that has already run, the work has not reached the origin. It has reached the evidence. Greetings. Hello. The same thing happens with the nervous system. The nervous system may be where the struggle, the reaction becomes visible. The overwhelm, the freeze, the shutdown, the bracing, the urgency, or the inability to move, or the delay, right? That's already the evidence. The body state is real, but visible. It being visible. What is showing up? What is visible? What is there? What is in front of you? Does not mean original. A state can still be downstream. A dysregulated body can be the place where the root registers, not the place where the root began. So when the model begins with regulation, it may calm the response. It will reduce the intensity. Most likely, often, most of them will reduce the intensity in the moment. May give the body enough room to continue. But here's the thing. Calm is not proof the root has changed. So it happening again and repeating is inevitable. Regulation can manage the evidence for sure, but it does not prove the root producing it has changed. And this is the structural error. This is the key point. This is the looping. This is the part that creates crime scenes in people, where more and more of this repeated work, this looping, makes people themselves feel like they're the ones at fault. They're not good enough. They're not clever enough. They're not lucky enough. That's the crime scene that's being left as residue for humanity, based on a lie, based on a false construct. The issue here is not value, it is location. The point is the location. Where does the model begin? Because a model can be enormously sophisticated and still late. It can be deeply compassionate and late. It can be powerfully deep, profoundly deep, but still late. It can have the most beautiful language and still begin after the root has already produced the output. Depth is not the same as location. That is key. Because you can go deep into childhood and still miss the root producing the current output. You can go deep into emotion and still meet what the root has already, and still only meet, right? You can go deep into emotion and still only meet what the root has already delivered. You can go deep into nervous system and still organize around the state after it has appeared. So find the root. What you were saying there, how does one find the root? So what you're saying there, you are saying root as in ROOT. I'm saying root. What is rooting? I'm not looking at the cause here, at source. I'm talking about what is rooting. What is the signal that's rooting? Because you can go deep into belief and still work with the explanation rather than the generator. You can go deep into shadow, archetypes, parts, identities, attachments, trauma, meaning, purpose, or story, and still never reach the place where the pattern is being rooted now. I'm not talking about the root as in ROOT. I'm talking about rooted, ROUTED. What is rooting? That is why understanding the pattern does not prove origin has been reached. Understanding may only mean the pattern has become more visible. The market has trained people to confuse articulation with correction. You can explain it, trace it, you can name the trigger, you can see the childhood link, you recognize the protector, you can locate the attachment style, you can describe the freeze response, you can even say, this is my nervous system, this is my trauma, this is my belief, this is my pattern. But yet it will still repeat on autopilot. And that repetition is not a small detail. It is the evidence that the model may not be reaching or is not reaching the layer generating the output. And I've said it before, I'll say it again and again and again. The question is not what we are being told to ask. Why do I do this? The self-inquiry. No, that question sends people into another explanation, another what another layer do I need to reveal? Adding more to the crime scene. What needs to be asked is what root has already taken authority before this becomes thought, state, emotion, behavior, apology, forgiveness, pattern. And that is where Codex begins. When I work with someone, I'm not looking first at the story they have built around the behavior. I'm not looking for a better interpretation. I'm not looking for a more spiritual explanation or another identity to place over the pattern. I read the root producing the output before it becomes visible. Codex names and classifies the architecture of that root. The mechanism, signal routing, is the mechanism. And that's the difference. Because for eons now, psychology has described behavior. masterfully, very well. And it's had like so much research, so much written about it, and it describes behavior magnificently, cleverly, powerfully, deeply. Mindset may describe the thought, as somatics may describe the sensation very eloquently. Nervous system work may describe the state. The same with trauma language can describe the adaptation. Behavior change can describe the action. Manifestation can describe the desire. But the root determines what becomes visible, what becomes available before any of that is visible. This is the category difference. Because when the model starts too late, the root remains protected. And that root can be highly distorted, huge interference, creating a lot of what I call mimic in behavior. And you keep working on what appears, regulate and explain what appears, reframe what appears, visualize what appears, optimize what is appearing, process it, improve language, and still call it healing, call it growth or more awareness or doing the work. But the same root keeps organizing the output, and that has a cost. And to be brutally honest with you, this is the part for me that is the most tragic. Because that cost is devastating. It costs life. It costs vitality. The cost is enormous because you spend years managing outputs. You spend years managing life instead of experiencing and living life. Relationships get organized around recurring reactions, and business decisions are delayed. Magic, prosperity, expansion, creation is delayed through familiar loops. And visibility is approached through the same route that hides. Money is desired through the same route that contracts. What's that going to do for prosperity? Intimacy is wanted through the same route that defends. Action is forced through the same route that makes movement unsafe. As the body carries the load of a route no one has read. And because the person is intelligent, they keep making the explanation more elaborate. And that is the trap. A better explanation or the better the explanation becomes, the easier it is to believe something has been reached. But fluency is not freedom. Language is not correction. The same as relief is not route change. Calm is not origin. A breakthrough, as good as it may feel in the moment, is not proof that architecture has changed. A new habit is not proof that the root has been cleared or is clean. A new thought is not proof that the generating layer has shifted. A vision is not a root. The thought, nervous system state, the emotion, the habit, the visualization are not the beginning. Why is it that people visualize all the time and nothing changes? All that does change is increase the layers of the internal crime scenes. Because visualization is not the beginning. If the rooting is distorted, what are you visualizing on? They are places the root has already become visible. If the model begins where the root becomes visible, it has already started too late. And once that is seen, the old frame cannot stay intact. Because the issue no longer is whether someone understands enough or is regulated enough or processed enough or done enough work. It's no longer whether you found the right relief or the right story, the right practice, the right identity, the right routine or the right explanation. The issue is whether the root producing the output has been cleared. And that's what most models do not do. They meet you after it is the root, after the root has already acted. Through the codex system, I read the root generating the output before it has become behavior or a state, before it is repeating or shut down or over effort or hesitation or distortion or practical consequence. Codex names and classifies the architecture of that root. And this is why before I work with people, I will do a structural review. And that is where I read the generating root behind what keeps repeating and identify the correct next access route into working with me. It's not a discovery call. It's not a conversation about the pattern. It's not a place to get reassurance about what you already understand. It's to see what is rooting, what the distortion is, where the distortion is. Because once that distinction is seen, there are only two moves. Continue working where the pattern appears, or read the root and get it cleared. And the structural review is the first correct access point for that. If you're interested in a structural review, I will leave the link in the description below. The model that starts too late will always keep you close to the evidence. Codex reads the root before the evidence becomes your life. And until next time, ciao. And I'll see you around on the internet. If you've got any questions, leave them below. Thank you for joining me. And make sure you subscribe so that you get notifications of the next Collapse broadcast. Take care.